In this tutorial, we are going to see how we can actually configure purchase event on WooCommerce store using Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics 4. This video is part of a bigger playlist, so in order to make sure that you understand everything, you need to watch the first video on the playlist and then you can follow along for the purchase event. To make things easier for you, I have divided this video into 4 different sections. In the first section of the video, I'm going to explain what exactly is purchase event and how you can leverage it once it has been configured on your Google Analytics store. In the second section of the video, we are going to see how we can trigger this event on our WooCommerce stores, followed by how to create tags, triggers, and how different event variables and parameters plays different role in configuring the report on Google Analytics. In the last section, we will be doing some tests to make sure everything is working all right and publish our Google Tag Manager containers. Let me take you to my computer screen and show you where you can find this purchase event once it has been configured on your website and what kind of reports you can build to leverage the performance of this purchase event. I am inside the demo account of Google Analytics 4, which is created by the Google Merchant Store. And right now, any report under monetizations, this is linked with your e-commerce tracking. In the previous videos, we have seen how to configure begin checkout, add to cart, view item, and all the other events. And once you have completed the purchase event, this report for the customer journey, this will be populated for you. We have configured add to cart event, and now we are looking at how to configure this purchase event. These two events for add payment info and add shipping info will be added after this video. You can also explore some other reports such as purchase journey, and here you will be able to see how many users are viewing your product, finally adding it to the cart, beginning the checkout process, and in the end making a purchase on that. You also have different parameters that you can add in this report to make it more viable for your personal use case. And if you are more familiar with other tools such as Looker Studio or Data Studio, you can build your own custom reports if you have all the parameters coming in that we will configure in the second section of the video. And here on this Looker Studio report, we can see that I have configured some reports which can give us source and medium, how many users are viewing the product, and finally how many of them are making a purchase. You can also create any other report that you want based on this information that we are sending back to the Google Analytics 4. So now we understand how exactly this purchase event is used inside Google Analytics. It is very important to see when exactly this purchase event is supposed to trigger on your website. To do that, we can go back to our Shopify store. I have a demo store right here. Once you have actually understood how this purchase event can be used inside the reports and how it can help you make much better decisions for your company, now we can actually see when exactly this purchase event fires on our store. So as soon as the user lands on your website, they might go through a user journey. For example, they view a product, add a product to the cart, and finally go directly to the checkout pages. Once the user is on the checkout pages, they might be able to fill out their user information. Since this is a test store, I'm going to fill out all the details that I might have. So let's just do a test user. I don't want you to bore you, so I'm going to fast forward this process. Great, I have filled out all of the information, and since this is a test demo store, if I will click on place an order, this will directly place an order for me. Great, now as soon as I land on the final thank you page on the website, this is the page where this purchase event should technically trigger. And in the first video of this playlist, we have actually explained how we are going to add a DataLayer plugin, which will create a data layer for us. On this page, if you will right click and inspect, this will take you to a developer window where we can see all of the events and triggers that are firing on the website. If you will go to the console tab, and on the bottom of the page, you can type data layer here. And once you will click on the data layer, you will see that there are some events firing. And under all of these events, we can see another event called purchase right here. And this event has some information such as e-commerce details, affiliation, coupons, currency, and it also has an items array. This item array contains all the information of the product that I just purchased for $59.99, although it was really free because this is a demo store. And this purchase event is something that we want to trigger back to the Google Analytics 4. You might also see that if I am going to refresh this page, this purchase event that has triggered on the final thank you page is not going to trigger again. So I have refreshed the page and I'm going to type data layer again. And as you can see, now we don't have that purchase event that triggered on the first time. So this purchase event only fires when the user actually makes the checkout on the website and they finally land on the final thank you page. Now we know all of these things. Let's just make sure we can configure tags and trigger that will trigger this event back on the Google Tag Manager. So let's go back to the Google Tag Manager container and go to workspace section. Workspace is where we are going to configure all of the tags, triggers, and variables that we need for configuration of any kind of events on Google Analytics. Let's go to the tag sections. And in the previous video, we configured view item, begin checkout and add to cart. So let's just click on new. And since we want this event to only fire on the purchase event itself, and the name of the purchase event that is standard, we are following from the data layer. Let's just click on new and create a new custom variable. And since this custom event is only going to trigger on the purchase event, let's just rename this one to purchase. Custom event, purchase, and hit save. Now we need to create a new tag for Google Analytics 4 that will send this information back to the Google Analytics platform. This tags requires a few different things to make sure that it works properly. The first one is the measurement ID. We can go back to our Google Analytics account, and in the top search field, we can just type in measurement ID and it will give us the measurement ID. Let's just type in measurement ID, and this will give you the measurement ID of the data stream that you have on your store. So let's just go back to this Google Tag Manager container and paste the ID right here. You can do this thing too. Otherwise, you can also import the variable that we created in the first video, which is called GA4 measurement ID. This GA4 measurement ID constant variable is the same thing, and it just contains the same value of the measurement ID. So let's just put this one here. The second thing it requires is the event name. The event name has to be purchased and everything lower space. It is called snake case lettering, where you replace the spaces with the underscores and everything else is smaller cases. So this is how you're actually going to configure the purchase event. I would like to mention a few things here that we have not discussed in the previous videos. And I would like to take some time to discuss this event structure of Google Analytics. There are a few things when an event fires on the website. So let's just quickly go back to the documentations of Google Analytics 4 and let me show you a few things there. This is the official e-commerce documentation for Google Analytics 4, and let's just click on tags and go down to the purchase event. On this purchase event, I want to show you a few different things. You might notice that there is a parameter called event, and then there are some additional parameters called e-commerce parameters. The event parameter, which has the name, and right now that we have configured on our Google Tag Manager container, which is only just sending the purchase event name whenever the purchase happens on the website. If we only configure this thing, then on our Google Analytics 4, we will be able to see this exact report because this report is built through the purchase event name. So as long as the name of the event is being sent back to the Google Analytics, you will be able to see this particular report right here. You will also be able to see the e-commerce purchase report, where you can see how many users are going from one page to another page. However, this report that we have here, this will be completely blank because this information for the item name and item ID and all the other things like item brand, which we can see here, all of this information is coming from this variable that we have right here. So this item variable is sending all of this information back to the Google Analytics 4. If you have not configured the enhanced e-commerce tracking, then this information will not be available in Google Analytics 4. That means all of the reports that we were just looking right now, where we have the filtering based on item ID, item category, or things like that, this information will not be available in GA4. So instead of just configuring this purchase event, we also need to make sure that we are sending enhanced e-commerce data. In the GA4 tag, right now they have made things easier for us. So under e-commerce settings, we have a send e-commerce data button, and this will automatically go inside the data layer and look for this e-commerce object. And this will just wrap the whole e-commerce object and send it back to the Google Analytics 4. But for some reasons, if your data layer is not the standard data layer, or if you're using a custom checkout platform and your developer has created their own data layer, then this will not work. If the name of this e-commerce is something else, let's say custom underscore e-commerce, then this information is not going to work. You also need to make sure that the transaction ID is either transaction ID or itself ID. If it is something else, that's again, it's not going to work. So let's just skip the whole thing about what works and what not works, and we can move back to the next step. Once we have enabled the enhanced e-commerce tracking, this will make sure that everything is working all right. There is another option too, which we can add all of the variables manually. For example, we can add the items array, and then we can create a data layer variable using ecommerce.items and then send it right here. But since this information is not really necessary, we are going to skip this one and save the tag. Let's rename it to GA4 EEC purchase and hit save. This should technically work, but it's always better to make sure if everything is working all right just by hitting the preview window. We have talked about this so many times. Preview window is just like a debug window, and it will help you debug any kind of events that are happening on your website, and it will help you see if we have configured anything wrong or not. Perfect. Let's just open both of these windows side by side so we can see all of the events that are coming from the debug session in our Google Analytics 4 property. Great. Let's just go to the shop page so we can add any of the product to the cart. Let's just add this one for $25.59. And now we can go to the cart page. We can see that we already have the add to cart event firing and all the other events working properly. So let's just go to the proceed to the checkout section. Perfect. And since it has all of the details saved, let's just place an order and go directly to the thank you page. Perfect. Now we are on the thank you page, and this is the order confirmation page URL, and we can see that a purchase event has been triggered, and this has successfully fired the tag that we created for the Google Analytics 4. But this does not tell us what kind of event parameters has been sent back to the Google Analytics 4 account, and we can verify that information by directly going inside the GA4 containers. Containers are anything that is related to Google tags, and this is created whenever any kind of Google container tags fires on the website. It can be Google Ads, it can be something else too. There is one more thing that you might notice and get a little confused. Why there are two different purchase events and they both look the same, but the only difference they are making is this API call. The first one is coming direct from the DataLayer.push event, and the second one is coming from the G-tag event. The reason for that is any event that you're going to create from the Google Analytics, it is going to push that event inside the data layer, but using the G-tag configuration. For example, as soon as the user lands on the website, you might see this container loaded event, and this container loaded event fires the Google Analytics 4 configuration tag. But if you will go into the Google Analytics 4 tag, you will see that as soon as the configuration tag fires, it does not do anything. It does not send any kind of hit back to the Google Analytics 4. But on the next step, it fires a config hit, and that config hit sends a page view event. Similarly, this purchase event is triggered through the data layer, but this data layer does not send any kind of hit back to the GA4. This purchase event sends the hit back to the GA4. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to create multiple events or anything like that. This will work perfectly fine. If you have more than one GA4 property, you will see two events here and two events in the other Google Analytics 4 property. So let's click on this purchase event hit, and we can see all of the information that is sent back to the Google Analytics account. Unlike the other view item and add to cart events, this one has a few different things such as coupon. It also has the shipping, tax, affiliation, and the transaction ID. All of this information is not available in the built-in report. However, you can build some custom reports for that to view this information on your Google Analytics or Data Studio. We can also verify the same information inside our debug window. So let's just go to the debug window. Oh, I don't have to go to the debug window. I just realized I am already on the debug window. So it's under the admin and data display and then debug. So the purchase event that we have triggered, it has successfully been received. And you might also notice that all of the events had a blue click button thing, and the purchase event has a green flag. The green flag just shows us that this is a conversion event and not a normal event. What is the difference between conversion and the normal event, you might ask? It's just toggling off one thing or not. For example, if you will go back to the data display and the event section, all of the things that you have here, these are all the events that you have been receiving on your website, or you can configure all of them if you want. As soon as you will mark them as a conversion, then they will be available for you to mark as conversion in your Google Analytics reports, or you can export them in Google Ads for any kind of marketing. Most of the clients that I see, they do have the add to cart, begin checkout as conversions, but I don't recommend having Google Analytics 4 conversion imported into Google Ads. I have my own reasons. But yeah, with the debug view, we can actually verify if the event is working fine. So as soon as you will see this purchase event coming in, that means the purchase event has triggered fine and the name is perfect. If you would have renamed the tag as capital P, then this would not trigger. This will also show up as a normal event. And now we need to verify if all the other information is correct. So we can see that we have the currency parameter, so that's good. We also have the tax since we paid 0 tax. So the transaction ID was 43. We also have the items array, and item array has item name, category, and the price itself. Don't worry about the price. It's just a decimal placement format of Google Analytics 4. Great. Now we can close up the video file with the final section. But since we have configured everything, we just need to make sure that we can publish these changes. So let's just quickly do that. Let's rename this container to GA4 EEC purchase and hit publish. Doing this, it will make sure that all of the changes that we have made there are not in the draft mode, because this is one of the mistakes I see with a lot of marketers and a lot of not marketers but the small business owners, they have configured everything perfectly, but they forget to publish the containers. And if then unfortunately everything is still in the draft mode and nothing is going to work on your website. So doing this, it should make sure that everything is working for it. As we are here, let me show you a quick thing that you can do on Google Analytics to make some reports that you can use. So in your Google Analytics, you can go to the Explore section, and maybe I should do a separate series about it. I don't know, but since the video is running, let me just show you something. So in this report, we can directly go to the free form, or you can click on the template gallery and it will take you to the e-commerce report section. We have multiple templates inside Google Analytics 4's built-in report, we can use that. If you will scroll all the way down, you will see this e-commerce template report. And as soon as you will click it, it will populate a new report that we can use. I want to show you how you can use that transaction ID thing to verify if the purchase event are being repeated multiply or not. I meant to say was if the purchase event are being tracked multiple times or not. So we don't need this acquisition reward, so we can delete this one. However, you can keep it if you want. We don't need this one either. So let's just keep the same report, but let's change it to the free form. A free form is the report where we can build out the tables that we need. For the dimension, I want one thing that is called transaction ID, and then I'm going to show you the other things. So let's just bring in transaction ID. Great. So what this is going to do that as soon as I will add the transaction ID in the rows, now the rows are going to have the transaction ID, and I can see various values against that. I can see how many number of transaction happened against this transaction ID. If the transaction ID, all of them has 1, then that means each event is recorded once. That means there are no duplicate conversions. And I can also add some other things like I can add text. I can add revenue. I can add purchase revenue. Let's just do these two things for now. Let's add purchase revenue, and then let's also add the tax amount. So what this is going to show me that how much the user is paying the tax and how much they are paying in terms of revenue when it comes to the transaction IDs. This report is very specific. You can also import item name instead of transaction ID, and then you can build a new report based on that. So with the same report with item ID or item name will look a little different. However, it will have the same functionality. For example, this one is showing us the breakdown based on the transaction ID. However, I can remove this transaction ID and add a new report for I almost forgot. Recently, Google Analytics 4 has introduced a new thing called item scope things. And the item scopes unfortunately does not work with the event scope. So we are back at the universal analytics situation. So if we want to use item ID and item array, we cannot use any of the parameters which are like capitalized. We can, however, we can use things that has items in them. For example, items purchased, and then we can also see item revenue. It should be right here. And let's click on import on all of these. So for the values, let's see how many items has been purchased and how many item revenue has been generated for the specific item name. So now we have the item name on the rows, and it is showing us how many items has been purchased and what was the total revenue. We can also go next step, and then we can add all of the other items related parameters, such as how many items has been viewed, how many items has been checked out, how many has been added to the cart, clicked in the cart, viewed in the list, and things like that. And if we will add all of these things, we don't need the revenue anymore. We can remove that, or you can keep it. It's completely up to you. So let's just add item viewed, item checked out. So item checked out is basically the begin checkout event with the enhanced e-commerce parameters. And same goes with the other events. So the add to cart event is basically add to cart with the enhanced e-commerce parameters, the items clicked in the list. This one is called select item. We have not seen this one in this video playlist, but hopefully after this purchase event and the customer journey, we will figure out the remaining events that we have missed. And then we have the item viewed in the list. We also have not configured this event in the playlist, but hopefully we will fix this one. So initially how the user journey follows is that they view the event in the list. So this one should be the first one. Then they click on the list. So this one should be the second. Once they have clicked on the item, ideally the view item event should fire. So this should be the third one. Once they have viewed the item, then hopefully they will add that item to the cart. So the fourth one is going to be the add to cart event. Once they have added the item to the cart, they are going to check out on that. And so the begin checkout is going to be the fifth event in the funnel, and followed by the purchase and how much revenue that has generated. To make the view much nicer, I am going to remove the variables column, and I am also going to remove the settings columns. I know that we did not talk about the variables and settings column, but those things are for the other videos. I'm just trying to show you what actually you can build with this kind of report, and how you can analyze the things that you have configured. So I can see that which of the list is the user most viewing. So I can see that this list is gaining the most kind of interaction in terms of the category pages. Category pages where we see all of the products combined, and most of the products are being bought when the user is viewing this report. Based on this one, I can see that the select item event has not been configured on the website, so we can ignore this one, and we can see all of these reports. However, I like the Google Looker Studio reports a little better because they give us a conversion rate. For example, how much user is viewing the product to the purchase event. Anyhow, I was not planning to show you this kind of reporting thing, but here it is. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the video. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can create this customer journey report, where we can see this add shipping info and add payment info event. We have already configured begin checkout and purchase. So we are going to explore this checkout journey request, and I will see you there.